Ladies and gentlemen, I want to close on the issue of the JPS restoration. And I want to be very clear in relation to reiterating some of the information that I've already stated, just out of an abundance of caution and to quiet the miscommunication and the noise. Last Tuesday, I'd have made a statement outlining the decision of the government to lend the JPS $150 million in relation to restoration, early restoration. This came on the basis that their projections were taking us to April, May, and possibly June 2026, based on their current cash flow. Let me indicate again that the loan was a decision recommended and supported by the Ministry of Finance and approved by Cabinet to lend the JPS the $150 million specifically to fast-track restoration, moving us from 82%, where we are now, to 90% by Christmas, New Year, and 100% by end of January. That would mean taking on 300 additional linesmen on top of the 170 that are here now. Without that money, the 170 linesmen would have been decommissioned this week, meaning that they would be decommissioned and have to leave because there would be no funding to pay them. So the $150 million goes towards keeping those 170 linesmen in Jamaica and adding another 300 linesmen. That comes with the equipment, the trucks, and all that you see currently on the road now that 170 linesmen are doing. That decision was made to get us out of having to give any sort of extension on the existing license. This minister and this government made a commitment to the people of Jamaica that the license that expired in 2027 would not be renewed on the same terms, which we all know and agree that the license is 25 years old. It was flawed from day one, and it is even more flawed based on the time that has elapsed and what the energy landscape does now. So in order for us not to grant the 15 years that was asked for by JPS and the 8 to 10 years that the multilaterals asked for to fund the JPS, we decided to be a responsible, caring government and lend the $150 million for 5 years with simple terms. 5.5%, which is very concessionary because we don't want a pass-through for increased bills because of interest rates. So we were mindful of that. It allows us to continue on the track to negotiate a new license with JPS or with whoever. So we have separated Melissa from what we were on track to do pre-Melissa. And I can say to you that in 2 years, if the JPS is successful in negotiating a new license, they'll be able to raise capital and repay the $150 million. If they don't, the government has already indicated in June of this year, rather than giving them an automatic 10-year additional extension for non-response by the government, we indicated to them that we were not prepared to renew the license on the same terms, and therefore, if necessary, we will be prepared to acquire the assets of the JPS. So our $150 million is secured either way. I just don't get what all of this noise and confusion is about. Jamaica the simple thing would be a decision that will be taken on your behalf. Grant a 15-year extension and continue to suffer under the current license for 15 more years, or lend JPS $150 million. Take the argument of extension out and proceed to restore electricity in the shortest possible time. I don't get it. Anyway, it's very clear. Last week, Tuesday in Parliament, after I spoke, the questions kept coming, and there was a definitive opposition by the opposition of releasing $150 million without knowing where the balance of money was coming from. So let me speak to that very clearly. The original estimate was $480 to $600 million. It has been revised down to $350 to $400 million. The $150 billion that we are lending them was not picked out of a hat. They told us they needed $75 million a month for 2 months to bring us full restoration. So yesterday in Parliament again, the noise and the mischief about the fact that the $150 million is not enough, and where is the other 200 or 250 million coming from? That's not a discussion that we have had with the JPS. We have had a discussion about $150 million. The JPS is owned majority privately, so the government has no obligation to fund a private entity. We did so in this case because of the benefits, and therefore we have nothing in front of us either to qualify at this stage the amount or the final assessment of the amount of money that Melissa has caused damage to JPS. We don't have it from the JPS, and I don't have it from the OUR. So I can't speak to any other figure other than what is out there. Secondly, there's no proposal in front of us for any additional money outside of the $150 million. So I want to make that very, very clear. Also, the $50 million through the Emergency Disaster Fund, that is a separate disbursement by the OUR, which is entitled to JPS in a disaster once they can quantify and qualify and justify their claim. So I wanted to make that also very clear. I want to also say that the rationale and benefits to the people in the affected parishes and wider Jamaica are very straightforward. 4 months on top of 1 month already without electricity. 4 more months, meaning 5 to possibly 6 months, is unbearable for the people, and it is absolutely unacceptable for our government in a recovery mode. Fast-track recovery and the rebuild process is critical. It affects government and business revenues, JPS's revenue, to enhance their financing ability to continue the work that needs to be done after restoration. It restores jobs, creates new jobs and business opportunities in the most affected areas and across Jamaica. So again, I'm still not quite understanding what the discussion is about in relation to the benefits of $150 million US dollars, 23 billion Jamaican dollars, out of the $6.7 billion that Jamaica will have access to. This is a wise business decision, a wise government decision, and it's a responsible decision that we will not back away from. And I want to indicate, I as minister, if I had to do it, I would do it every day and twice on Sundays. So I take full responsibility, and I have no apologies, and I have no explanation, because the people who are suffering get it. They know what we are trying to do, and we will continue to do so in the shortest possible time. JPS, as of right now, is at 82%. We are planning, and I want to go through this very carefully for you, to move, as I said before, to 90% over Christmas to New Year, and 100% by end of January, early February. I want to give the country the Christmas commitments. The additional 300 line workers, along with their specialized equipment, have been mobilized. The barges with specialized equipment are expected to arrive prior to Christmas. The latest information I have, Minister Dixon, is that linesmen will start arriving here as early as this weekend, ahead of the equipment, which we hope will dock sometime late next week into next weekend, latest early in the week of Christmas, and start working immediately. These line workers will be allocated to parishes with catastrophic damage, such as Westmoreland, to accelerate redesign and rebuild efforts. We have already provided power to Savlamar Hospital, the town of Savlamar, Nigwil, and surrounding communities as we continue to expand our rebuild efforts in Westmoreland. We are making arrangements for special accommodations and staging areas for equipment and material in parishes such as Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth to optimize logistics and efficiencies for the rebuild restoration efforts. Let me pause to tell you the level of planning that we are doing. We know that accommodations are short, St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. We know they're not as short, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne. We are looking to get some kind of vessel, whether it's a cruise ship, hotel, whatever you call it, to dock between St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. So those linesmen that are dedicated at that parish will be staying on board and coming off every morning, going to work and coming back every evening. And they will be fed on the road for lunch while they are working, because we realize with Westmoreland at 88%, the travel commute to leave out of the parish and go anywhere else is not going to be as efficient. That's the level of detail. For the other side, we're fine. There's enough rooms and hotel rooms and Airbnb and whatever else. But we know that there's a problem. And we know that there's going to be a lot of the linesmen that are going to be targeted those two specific parishes. So that's why you're going to get the response that you're going to get between Christmas and New Year in those parishes. Also, and this is very important, we're working with the MPs and the municipal corporations to see exactly what they recommend as the priorities for their constituents and their parishioners, to make sure that we target what is most effective and efficient for the Christmas season to ease the misery index in those areas. And the commitment that the JPS has made to me, which I have put in writing, all major town centers in all parishes will be restored by Christmas and New Year. It means all of those townships that are not or do not have electricity now will have, and that will be huge in terms of the effect for Christmas and New Year. So you will see the latest numbers in relation to the parishes. As I said before, the major problem that we have is that Westmoreland was the worst affected parish, and therefore they are at the highest number of persons who do not have electricity. So, again, I want to say two things in closing. And this must be specific to trying to get rid of the noise and the miscommunication and all that goes with it. For every time that somebody thinks or criticizes the government for the steps that we are taking, I want those of us who have a comfortable bed to sleep in, some of us with air condition, TV, phone service, cable and internet, food in our cupboard and fridges, a business or a job and a salary, a place to go for a drink to get rid of the stress, that there are tens of thousands who don't, and their only wish now would be for a tarpaulin to cover them from rain and sun, and a bottle of water to quench their thirst, and maybe a diaper for their young child. We as a government, we feel your pain, and this is why we have given you the electricity plan that we have given you today. I hear or see two specific MPs in Westmoreland who came to, one went on social media and hit out against the JPS loan, and one in Parliament yesterday who grilled the Minister of Finance about the prudence of this. Yet still, one of them on social media up to recently was crying crocodile tears in one and then fighting against it. I want to leave this with you. As usual, I like to go to my Oxford dictionary. And I Google crocodile tears. Tears are expressions of sorrow that are insincere. The origin, mid-16th century, said to be named from a belief that crocodile wept while devouring or luring their prey. That is the one on social media. The one yesterday that called We're Crying Parliament last week. We have a thing called dry cry. I looked it up and it said dry cry meaning in Jamaica. In Jamaican patois, dry cry often refers to pretending to cry or shedding fake tears to gain sympathy, attention, or manipulate a situation. It implies a false sense. It implies a false display of sadness without being genuine. I leave that to the Jamaican people to judge and to say to you as I close, God always knows best. And that is why the Andronis JLP government was chosen to lead this recovery and rebuild process. That's why I'm Minister of Energy working with JPS on early restoration of remaining JPS customers without light. That will be able to do so in a matter of weeks. I want to remind Jamaica that we are 5 weeks into Melissa, and we have restored 82% of JPS customers. First world countries have had less than Category 5 and taken 6 months to a year to be able to do so. I want to say again in closing, I stoutly defend the recommendation of the loan to JPS to Cabinet and the approval given rather than an extension of the existing electricity license to JPS. And I have no regrets or apologies, as it's the best option for the people of Jamaica to allow for a return to normalcy in the shortest possible time. The government has done the right thing based on extreme circumstances that the country and the people face at this time, especially with Christmas and New Year's. And as I said a few months ago, I was going to give the people of Jamaica bus after bus after bus. I'm going to give them light after light after light. God bless Jamaica, and we look forward to continuing the work for you, the people.